Welcome to the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Sports Report for Wednesday, November 25th. We've got college basketball, two marquee games for Wednesday night to break down. We've got Thursday NFL, Thursday college football, all on today's show. Happy college basketball opening day. Hope you're enjoying it. I've got the televisions on in front of me, games going left and right. We've already got a bunch of games that have already completed earlier today. Big wins for the likes of Xavier, Illinois winning big and impressive early on today. Kansas State losing outright as favorites, making me happy. Someone that took Drake plus the points against a team that I'll be looking to bet against quite a bit this year. So we're off and running here with a new college basketball season. Even though it is American Thanksgiving tomorrow, I just want to mention that there will be an Ian Cameron Sports Report show tomorrow. Remember, I'm in Canada, so there's no holiday here. So it's kind of like business as usual for me tomorrow. Tomorrow on the show, I will look at Friday college football. That's going to be the focus of the show tomorrow, looking at the marquee games on Friday in college football. We'll look at some college basketball as well. Today, let's do it. Let's start with Wednesday night college basketball. I'm going to break down two marquee games taking place tonight in college hoops. We'll start with Villanova taking on Boston College. Villanova 14-point favorites. The total here around 143, pretty much across the board in this game, 143.5 in some spots. Villanova, you know what you're going to get from them. Another national title contender, another excellent team on paper for Jay Wright this year. Four starters back: Colin Gillespie, Justin Moore, Jermaine Samuels, Jeremiah Robinson Earl. A very deep bench as well. Most of those players back from last season's team as well. So this is a very good team, lots of experience. A Villanova team that is well-versed at both ends of the court. Offensively, inside-outside balance with their offense. They can get scoring production from in the paint. They have good three-point shooting. They can rebound the ball, and they're still going to play that traditional, expected, strong defense under Jay Wright. That's not going to change. So this is going to be a really good Villanova team again. I can't say the same about Boston College. It's a team that, they do bring back their leading scorer, Jay Heath. That's going to help, but three of their top four top offensive producers from last year are gone. Jim Christian is on the hot seat, the head coach. It's been 6 largely disappointing years for him as the head coach of Boston College. This team has just not made any improvements, made any inroads in the ACC. I definitely think they are destined for a bottom 2, bottom 3 finish in this conference. The defense is lousy as well for Boston College last year, and so was the offense. I mean, this team was ranked in the 300s in field goal percentage last year, and it's not going to be easy facing this very strong Villanova defensive team. As far as the side and the total goes, I would only look to Villanova minus 14. Now, you do get concerned laying double digits first game of the season on a neutral court, this game being played at Connecticut, the Mohegan Sun. Not necessarily a good, strong profile, but Boston College to me is going to be up against it. And the one thing we are seeing so far today, these powerhouse teams, when they've got a mismatch situation over their opponent, they're coming out and putting up a big-time effort and big-time performance. And I think a lot of these upper echelon programs, they're excited to get this first game of the season underway, and they're not looking past it. They're looking forward to it. There's just so many matchup advantages here that Villanova should have. I would only look to them minus 14. I think if you like Villanova, maybe the better way is the team total here with Villanova. Look at their team total over in this game, because I think they're going to be able to pick apart this very weak Boston College defense, which, again, when they had to face some pretty good teams last year, they weren't able to get a whole lot of stops. The reason I would favor Villanova team total over instead of the full game over is because you're just always worried in a scenario like this. How much offense am I going to get from Boston College in this game? That's where the concern is going to be. So if you go with the team total instead for Villanova tonight, I'm just trying to bring it up here and see what it is. It's 78.5. I think there's a good chance Villanova gets to 80, but you want to rely on worrying about whether Boston College gets into the 60s for you. I'm not so sure. So to me, Villanova over 78.5 team total is a good way to go. I would lean to laying the points, but I think the team total is just a little bit of a safer route when it comes to this game. The other game that I wanted to talk about, it's a good one. It's late night action. It's UCLA, San Diego State. We've got the UCLA Bruins. A lot of expectations that they can win the Pac-12 this season. They're laying 2.5 and 3 points in this game. 131.5 the total in this one. This is going to be an interesting game here between UCLA and San Diego State. UCLA, we know they're coming back with a lot of expectations. Mick Cronin really made this team better last year. They made good improvement, but now they've not only got the talent, but second year in the system of Mick Cronin, which of course reverted more to a slow it down, play good defense, be fundamentally sound, that style of basketball last year. They've definitely got a bunch of players that they can rely on that I think are going to be pretty good for them. Of course, Chris Smith is back for them this year, which is huge for the UCLA Bruins. Jamie Jaquez Jr. Is going to be an impressive player for them as well. Jalen Hill with bringing them a little bit of an interior low post muscle as well. Last season, 6.9 rebounds per game. Going to be a really good basketball team this year, UCLA. Are they ready, though, for this first game of the season with a lot of expectations that are being thrust upon them as this team that's going to be very, very difficult to beat here in the Pac-12? San Diego State, on paper, this looks like a team that you think maybe they're rebuilding a little bit. You get concerned about whether this team's going to be able to duplicate what they did last year, which is probably not going to happen. I mean, last year was an incredible season for Brian Dutcher's San Diego State team. Malachi Flynn is no longer there, drafted by the Raptors in the NBA. So you're going to have some personnel turnover here for this San Diego State team. But we have to be careful about branding San Diego State as a rebuilding team. Other teams in this conference or other conferences, when they lose the players that San Diego State did, yeah, they're rebuilding a little bit. But this is more of a team that year in and year out has consistently been upper echelon in the Mountain West. And they have been more of a, we're going to reload team as opposed to rebuild. They bring back at least Matt Mitchell. There was concern he wouldn't come back, the senior guard for San Diego State this year, but he did indeed return for this senior season. That's certainly going to help San Diego State. It'll be Nathan Mensah, who was out lots of last season, was a big key piece of that front court, missing. Boy, he's back, he's healthy, and he's going to really be not only give them offense in the paint, but also good defensive presence as well. So to me, UCLA, there's a lot of expectations. I think if you match up these two teams on paper from a roster standpoint, you got to give the edge to UCLA. I do think they win the game, but it's not a scenario where I left UCLA off my card tonight in terms of what I gave out to my subscribers for college basketball plays today. I lean UCLA. I do think they're probably better talent-wise, but remember, this is the first game. There's a lot of expectations, and this is at Viejas Arena in San Diego, this game. So it's a home game, true home game for the Aztecs, and they'll be chomping at the bit to try to take down this UCLA Bruins team that's getting a lot of hype, a lot of positive reviews coming into the season as a team that's probably got a good chance to win the Pac-12. See if they can handle the weight of expectations here, UCLA. They should be a very good team. I lean to them winning the game and covering the short number here on the road, but just a lean. I'm going to sit back here. Let's see how they handle it. And to me, I've always leave the door open for San Diego State to be a better team than a lot of people expect. I know a lot of people say they're going to be down a bit this year. They're still probably the team to beat in the Mountain West, in spite of the losses, including Malachi Flynn from last year's team. But I do think this San Diego State team is not one that I am rushing to discount, even though there's some people that think they might be rebuilding a bit this year. So the lean to UCLA, but more than anything, a game I'm just going to sit back, watch, and one that I'm absolutely excited to watch. It should be a good one here in the late night hours in college basketball action. All right, let's go to Thursday. We've got one college football game. It's New Mexico, Utah State. New Mexico 6.5 point road favorites, 51.5 the total. I don't want to back Utah State, but I'm not sure I'm rushing to lay 6.5 with New Mexico. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be. They really last week for the first time missed Tuioti, their number one quarterback, because the backup quarterback was absolutely dreadful against Air Force. They had so many opportunities in the red zone, and they kept shooting themselves in the foot time and time again, not able to turn a bunch of Air Force turnovers into that game into points. And it ended up costing New Mexico in that game. Their defense got gashed a little bit as well, but I'm not sure Utah State has any kind of offense to take advantage of those New Mexico defensive concerns. I would only look to the road favorite, but after what I saw out of New Mexico last week, it's not like I think this is a great rushing out there to bet this team, especially if Trey Hall is once again the quarterback. And as I said, New Mexico's offense was pretty sketchy last week with him under center. So it's a game I have no interest betting, but if I had to, I would rather have the road favorite than this nearly unbackable home underdog. Utah State has been just absolutely abysmal this year. They already fired the coach. I don't see where things are going to get better for them anytime soon. All right, NFL, we're down to the two games on Thanksgiving Thursday. Houston, Detroit. Houston 3-point road favorites. 51 the total in this game. The Lions have a ton of offensive injuries again. It looks like Kenny Golladay is going to miss this game once again, be out of action here for the Detroit Lions. DeAndre Swift, the rookie running back, is questionable. Looks like he's going to be a game-time decision for Detroit going into this game. Danny Amendola looks like he's still going to be out. And the Detroit Lions, I mean, it takes some kind of shit performance to be shut out by the Carolina Panthers. Let's not forget, Carolina, going into that game against Detroit on Sunday, had been a pretty poor defensive team. They didn't have any kind of pass rush. They weren't stopping the run. They were letting receivers run wide open against them down the field, game in and game out, and yet the Lions somehow can't even score a point against that defense. That tells me right there there's some issues with this Detroit team. You know, I know there's a long-term statistic that says bet on the team after a shutout loss, but to me, I don't want Detroit here. I do not want, like, they're in a price range where they have to win the game. Do you trust Detroit to win a game right now? The other side is, do you trust Houston's defense? But again, if Carolina's defense is pitching a shutout against Detroit, I know Houston's defense, much like Carolina's, they haven't been that good this year, but maybe they can neutralize this Lions offense. And as far as Houston's offense goes, Deshaun Watson continues to play very well in spite of the offensive line issues, in spite of the lack of a ground game, in spite of injuries to Kenny Stills and Randall Cobb, who are both, it looks like, going to be out for this game for the Texans. So they'll have to rely a lot on Will Fuller. They'll have to rely a lot on Brandon Cooks. I think Kiki QT is going to get a lot more targets this week with Deshaun Watson. He's probably the value player prop guy in this game from a receiving standpoint for Houston. Kiki QT, I think his targets are going to go up, especially with Cobb and Stills. Both of them not going to play. It'll be Fuller, Cooks, and QT. I think they're top three receivers. So maybe you'll look at some QT props over receiving yards and receptions tomorrow. I certainly think you can like Deshaun Watson over passing yards, just like I cashed an easy prop winner with Deshaun Watson over passing yards against New England last week. I think he does the same here against this suspect Detroit Lions secondary. And I like Houston minus the 3 here. I think they're worth some kind of bet. I lean a little bit to the over as well. I hope Detroit can give me something offensively. I think they will. I think they have to feel ashamed that they got shut out in their last game. They are back home, and the last home game, they put up 30 in a victory against Washington. So I think the Lions will contribute to the scoring. I like the Texans, though, to win and cover, and I like the game to go over the total there between the Texans and Lions. Washington and Dallas, a big game. It's two teams with a laughable record. You could say, you know what, big game. What are you talking about? But in the NFC East, anyone can win this division, and both of these teams are still very much alive. Dallas, 3-point favorites at home, 46 the total. Look, I'm going to give Dallas some credit. I mean, it was not the greatest spot last week for the Vikings because they played against Chicago on Monday Night Football. They came back home on a short week, and they didn't play well. But some of that, you got to give Dallas credit. Coming off the bye week, Andy Dalton returning. The offensive line is where I noticed the biggest difference with Dallas in the victory against Minnesota. Much healthier. Zach Martin back. A lot of that offensive line, which had been a problem most of the early part of the year, is finally getting healthy, and they're playing better. And now they're starting to open up holes for Pollard and Zeke Elliott on the ground, and they're giving Andy Dalton time to throw the football to the likes of Dalton Schultz, the tight end, Amari Cooper, who made some great plays, and CeeDee Lamb, who made an outstanding catch in that game against the Minnesota Vikings to help the Dallas Cowboys to victory. So this is an offense that's getting healthier. Andy Dalton played his best game by far against Minnesota since he's been the starting quarterback of this Cowboys team. I think that's something that you got to keep an eye on. I think Dallas probably can move the ball a little bit here. I know Washington's defense, especially up front, can get a pass rush with Chase Young on that defensive line. And boy, they battered Cincinnati and Joe Burrow, knocked Joe Burrow out of the game due to injury. Really, that defensive line caused it. I mean, they were pressuring Joe Burrow most of that game, and Andy Dalton's not necessarily Mr. Mobile in terms of being able to escape the pocket. But, the Dallas offensive line gave him a lot of time last week. And I think they can give him some time here as well against Washington. I respect the Washington defensive front for sure, but I like what I saw. I think Dallas can at least give Andy Dalton enough time to be able to make some plays here. On the flip side, I still don't buy the Dallas defense being any good. I mean, you saw them play good for about a quarter and a half. Even most of the first half against Minnesota, they did all right, but Kirk Cousins started to pick that secondary apart in the second half. And I think Alex Smith is fully capable of picking apart that Dallas defense. He and Terry McLaurin have already got great chemistry in terms of the passing game. The Dallas secondary and pass defense has been terrible throughout the course of the season. So I think Washington offensively is going to have success here. There won't be any kind of weather issues with this being indoors at AT&T Stadium, aka Jerry's World. But I do think both offenses can have success here. And for a Dallas Cowboys game, a total of 46, anything in the mid 40s like this with Dallas seems like it's a little bit low. I have no opinion on the side because I do give Dallas the chance to show that a big, much needed win against Minnesota, momentum carrying over to this game against Washington. So I have not much of an opinion on the side either way, but I do think Alex Smith and the Washington football team can move the ball in this game and have success. And I think Andy Dalton and the Dallas Cowboys can move the ball and have success in this game. So I do think the game can go up and over the total 46 with Washington Dallas on Thanksgiving Thursday. All right, that'll wrap up this edition of the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Sports Report for Wednesday, November 25th. Again, I'll have a show tomorrow. We'll break down Friday's college football slate, a bunch of marquee games, and a little bit of college basketball on the show tomorrow as well. Make sure you tune in for that. And as always, make sure every day you're tuning into the Pub Sports Radio YouTube channel for great content. And by the way, business as usual for me, even though it's Thanksgiving Thursday in the States, that also means Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy is taking place tomorrow. However, I'm changing the time of it. We're going to do it from 11:30 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow until 12:30, which is the opening kickoff of the Houston-Detroit game. So the Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy NFL show, normally Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow it'll be at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 a.m. Pacific. We'll break down every NFL game from a betting perspective tomorrow. Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. Every Thursday, it's going on as usual, but going to move it up to 11:30 a.m. Eastern time so that we can break down every game from a betting perspective in the NFL. And of course, I'll also have the daily Ian Cameron Sports Report show tomorrow as well. So with that in mind, that's going to wrap up this show. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Have a great Wednesday night. Good luck with your college basketball bets the rest of this opening day of the season. Have a great Wednesday night, and I will see you again tomorrow on Thursday right here for another edition of the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Sports Report.